Damn.
Welcome one and all to the Political Jargon Show with Eddie Quintana. I'm your host, Eddie Quintana. Today is June 20th, 2018, and we have got a great show for you guys today. I'm Eddie Quintana. Welcome to the Political Jargon Show. So we're going to talk about the story that's been dominating the headlines for the last, I don't know, let's say 48 hours or so. The border and what's going on at the border. We're going to be talking about that, and we're going to be talking about something else real quickly as well. Pulling out of the UN Human Rights group, because, I'll get into it. It's a little bit more nuanced, and I'm not as lefty on that as I thought I would be after reading one article, so that's surprising. However, I still have my fucking problems with it, so let's go ahead and just straight into the border topic, because I'm going to be needing a lot of time for that. So, as you know, that this last 48, it's been happening since April. I would say it's been happening a while, for a long time actually. However, American politics happens in cycles, so you'll talk about, in 1 week you'll talk about foreign policy and gun violence. The next week you'll be talking about education and, I don't know, budget cuts. The next week you'll be talking about tax cuts and the drug policy or something else like that. So everything happens in cycles. So right now the cycle is dominated by what's going on at the border. So let's go ahead and jump straight into that, because I have a lot to say. So basically everybody I'm going to be talking about right now, well, before I get into that, this story has been misreported from the start, but that's not a cover-up for the Trump administration and their shitty policy that they're pushing, and the fucking lies that they're trying to use to get out of their shitty policy. Which leads into my next point. Basically, everybody I'm going to be talking about today is a piece of shit who can rot in hell, and I don't give two shits about. They're not worthy of being considered to be called human, because they're not. None of these people are human. None of them. None of them are human. Any of these people that I'm talking about, they're grotesque animals who have no soul. That's what it comes down to. None of these people that I'm about to talk about have any sense or they have no sense of human dignity and empathy and compassion, because they're not human. They're fucking grotesque people. All of them. So let's start in with the whole policy overall. Let's start up with an update. I'm going to report from the AP now. So, in April, Jeff Sessions announced a zero-tolerance policy on the border. So, whereas before, I believe it was, if you come over the border illegally, it wasn't a felony. It was I forget the specific legal term. It wasn't a misdemeanor. It was in between a misdemeanor and a felony. It was a crime, but it wasn't as punishable as a felony because it wasn't considered a felony until April, when Jeff Sessions changed that. So that's where we're starting at. Jeff Sessions changed, I forget the legal term, illegal immigration from whatever that legal term was to a felony. That's what he changed it to. And it was punishable. Coming over the border illegally was punishable in relation to getting a speeding ticket or driving drunk. It wasn't serious. You still got punished for it, but you wouldn't consider yourself a criminal because you sped or you were driving drunk. Okay? Some people would, but those are the minority, because one time driving drunk doesn't make you a criminal. One time driving over the speed limit doesn't make you a criminal. One time driving past a red light and running a red light doesn't make you a criminal. So that's at least how one lawyer explained it in an article that I read. But basically, so we go to that till we find out that there are these tent cities, children are being taken away, and so, here's where the complete and total lies, fabrication, misreporting comes in. People all over the place are saying, well, the Bush administration did this, the Obama administration did this. The Bush administration started something like this, but it never separated kids from their families. basically, the policy around separating kids from their families was called Operation Streamline in 2005 under the Bush administration, but it didn't separate families. Obama separated families, but they were returned relatively quickly, and it only happened for specific instances, like in 2014 when there was a abundance of illegal immigrants trying to cross the border. It was a rare time where an unusual amount of people came across the border. Okay? So, yes, this has been done before, but not only has it not been charged as a felony until now, parents usually could keep, I would say about 95% of the time, would be able to keep their children with them, and even if they didn't, they got them back within hours. Okay? So, that's from what I can tell, from what I've read, from what I've listened to, from what I've seen, that's the most accurate representation we've got so far. And sadly, idiots on Fox News don't report it like that, and idiots on MSNBC don't report it like that. So we've got a really bad problem with the media on this. Now, I am literally 20 years old. Nobody should look at me and go, I'm going to listen to everything he says, because I don't know. I could be proven wrong in an instant. Someone in the chat or in the comments could post a link proving my entire opening 3 minutes there completely wrong. But from what I've read as of June 20th, this is the most accurate version of this that we have. So let's go ahead and start with what Trump said a couple days ago. This is the Democrats' law. No, it's fucking not, you fucking liar. No, it's fucking not. No, it's fucking not. This is not the Democrats' law, because it's not a law. It's not a law. This is the thing. Jeff Sessions made a zero-tolerance policy, right? He made it. Oh, Trump didn't sign anything. Okay, Obama didn't have this law, Bush didn't have this law, Clinton didn't have this law. It was a policy change at the department as Attorney General for the border control. That was it. Jeff Sessions did that. And then Jeff Sessions has the gall to go up there and say, well, we need a law from the Democrats. We need a law from the Democrats in Congress. Okay? It's playing politics. It's semantics. Donald Trump wants a fucking wall on the border, on the southern border. I have absolutely no problem with that. I have a problem with idiots and fucking retards going up there and saying we need to end legal forms of immigration. You may not like those legal forms of immigration, but they're legal. So it's not a matter of illegal immigration. It's a matter of immigration in general, which I'm not for. So he's using these kids as fucking leverage to get his wall to end legal forms of immigration as chain migration and the other big one. I forget exactly what it's called. Chain migration and Donald Trump tweeted it out. We'll probably read it at some point. I'll probably tell everybody. But, the fucking normal list you hear Donald Trump spew every other day. So he's using these kids in the separation of kids that his own Attorney General made as a policy for the border control as leverage for Congress to do his immigration bill. Not only is that disgusting, but he's going up there and saying the complete opposite, which is just nothing but a fucking lie. It's gross. It's hideous. It's fucking gross what Donald Trump is doing with these kids. He's not doing it himself, but to get a fucking border wall and to be such a fucking loser that you have to get a border wall by separating kids from their families. That's grotesque. That's fucking gross. Listen, I told you that this is going to be nothing. None of these people I'm talking about are human, because they're fucking not. Donald Trump is not human on this issue. Jeff Sessions is not human on this issue. Almost every single person on the Fox News network is nowhere near human on this issue. Okay, the Democrats are barely struggling. They're struggling to remain somewhat human on this issue. Nobody is human on this issue. It's gross. It's all fed by agendas and propaganda and lies, and it's just depending on where you fall on the political spectrum based on your morals and how you grew up, you find the other side less human than the other. I view that as your own opinion, free speech, whatever, blah, 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 that's fine. It's, frankly, fucking incorrect to say that Republicans are nothing less than human on this issue. It's just objectively wrong. Republican after Republican after Republican have made grotesque, inaccurate, false lies from the start of this. Republican after Republican after Republican. It's fucking grotesque what these people are doing. Okay? So now we cut to the AP, right? So the AP reports that Trump wants to sign something as an executive action for Donald Trump on this. What the fuck? Okay, so Homeland Security Secretary Christian Nielsen has drafted an executive action for President Donald Trump that would direct her department to keep families together after they detained crossing the border illegally. She was at the White House where Trump told reporters he would be signing something shortly. Great. Can't wait to see what it is. The effort to end what has become a major crisis for the Trump administration was outlined by two people familiar with Nielsen's thinking who spoke on condition of autonomy to discuss the effort before its official announcement. It's unclear exactly what the president might be supporting, but he said he would sign something in a little while. We want to keep families together, he said. The effort would mark a drastic departure from an administration that has been insisting, wrongly, that it has no choice but to separate families apprehended at the border because of the law and a court decision. Okay. It's wrong. Okay? They don't have to do this. It's not a law. That's a lie. It's not a law. He's using these kids as leverage to get a fucking wall built on the southern border. It's utterly grotesque. It's so wrong. It's just so gross that people take these fucking people seriously. Like, what happened last week? Manafort got arrested and he's been thrown in jail, and Donald Trump went up there and the easiest lie to fucking research, and people still fucking bought it. Donald Trump goes out there and tweets, Paul Manafort was a part of my campaign for like 49 days, 44 days. Okay, it's not that big of a deal. It's been on record for months that he's been a part of the campaign for around 144 days. One Google search. I found that out in one Google search. And yet Fox News is going up there telling everybody that Paul Manafort was a part of the campaign for 44, 49 days, whatever the number was. It's one Google search, guys. It's not hard. But these people aren't smart. They're not smart. They're just not smart. None of these people are smart. The people who watch Fox News are just simply not smart. People who literally believe Hannity at face value are just simply not smart. Or they choose to be ignorant. It's one or the other, because you cannot be rationally, objectively smart and go, yeah, you know what? Hannity was 100% right there. Sometimes he might be, but a majority of the time, death panels, born in Kenya, false birth certificate. I mean, Mueller's team is operated by Democrats. I mean, Mueller is looking into collusion with Russia, even though the report from Mueller that came out when he started his team never mentions collusion at all. It never mentions collusion with Russia at all in the report that came out when Mueller started his investigation so long ago. I mean, Hannity's just factually incorrect 99.98% of the time. Fox News is literally state propaganda. There is no, I mean, what else is there? I mean, it's not news, and it's definitely not entertainment. So what else is there? It's state propaganda. The government has done no wrong since Donald Trump took office at noon on January 20th in 2017, because I lick his ass, and I smell his farts, and I tell him he's a good boy. That's all Fox News is. That's all. That's it. Nothing. No objectivity, no fair and balance, just, Donald Trump is 100% correct, and I just don't understand why these people don't see it. It's so sad. It's so sad. Okay? Right? So all those Fox News fucking morons are claiming rule of law, but none of those motherfuckers know the rule of fucking law, because guess what? Ready for this? I'm about to blow every single one of their minds. In 1951, the United States signed on to the convention relating to the status of refugees. Wow, isn't that interesting? Maybe we'll find the answers here. Literally on page 1, we'll find the fucking answer. Okay, so most of these people, first of all, are also coming for asylum. Whether or not they're true, that's a completely different scenario. But Innocent until proven guilty, that's what we follow. Just because they're not Americans, that doesn't mean that they have to follow it. That's what we follow. When you say defend and protect the Constitution, that's in the Constitution. You shall defend that. That's what you fucking follow by. It's not called the rule of law for nothing. The law of the land, the Constitution, that's in there. You follow it if you're a government employee, if you're a government official. Innocent until proven guilty, with a fair and speedy trial. So, in 1951, the first Article 31, the first part says, the contracting states, the United States, shall not impose penalties on account of their illegal entry or presence on refugees who, coming directly from a territory where their life or freedom was threatened, in the sense of Article 1, enter or are present in their territory without authorization, provided that they present themselves without delay to the authorities and show good cause for the illegal entry or presence. So if you walk up to the border without identification and you claim asylum, whether or not that's true or not, it doesn't fucking matter. They are not to be punished. From a world treaty on refugees in 1951, again, the law, whether or not you agree with it, we signed on to it. If you don't want to be a part of this deal, then we got to retract ourselves from that. But I don't even know where you start to pull yourself off from that, and why would you want to pull yourself away from that? I would not understand. So that's an actual law. Like, that's a thing. Being separated from your parents, not a law. Making sure that they aren't penalized for being illegal at first is a law. Sorry, I just blew every right-winger's mind. One Google search. Okay, this one wasn't one. It was a little bit longer than that. But still, use Google. It's your friend. Fox News isn't. Fox News is not your friend. You can't be 100% right all the time. That's just it just can't happen. And Fox News literally reports it like Republicans are right 100% of the time. And when they do say that they're wrong, it's because they're not right-wing enough, which can't happen either. You can't be just right-wing or just left-wing. It just won't work out. So there's an actual law that the United States that the world has been following since 1951. There's an actual law. I just showed it to you. It's been used. It's been proven. It's been objectively looked into. It's been approved of. I mean, what else do they need? In 1951, you know who's fucking President Eisenhower? So you can't even argue that a liberal did this, because it wouldn't have been a liberal. It was a fucking Republican. Or no, I take that back. It wasn't Eisenhower. It was about to be Eisenhower. So, okay, so that wasn't wrong. But still, Truman is more conservative than he is liberal. So, there's that. See, I'm wrong. I have no problem admitting that I was wrong there. Because there was an election in 60. You go 4 years before 60, it was 56. You go 4 years before that, it was 52. So, I was wrong. I misread the years. Eisenhower wasn't president. He was running for president. It was Truman. Truman was a Democrat, but both parties were more towards the center in the 50s than they are now. So Truman was more towards the center at the very least, and if you looked at his policies, he's probably more to the right than most people would want to admit at this time. So even if you look at the political spectrum, they're not that crazy left-winger that's pushing this agenda for a new world order and one world government or any bullshit like that. We've just started with the horse shit, by the way. So there's an actual law that apparently no one fucking knows about, because I've never seen it reported by anybody on this issue. You would think that that's pretty important. Whether or not you agree with it, that's a pretty important fact. Okay? The United States can't just choose which international laws we follow and what we don't follow, because then the second anybody else follows what rules they want to follow or not, we're going to have a big fucking problem. So let's go ahead and look at the law argument that Donald Trump has put forth. So let's take a look at our tweet here. I can't even read this. Separating families at the border is the fault of bad legislation passed by the Democrats. Again, false. There is no law passed that says you have to do this. It's just not true. Border security laws should be changed, but the Dems can't get their act together. Started the wall. Okay, great. Okay, all right. Well, okay. I mean, that's cool. Vox is reporting that this is, quote, "this is not true. There is no law that requires immigrant families to be separated. The decision to change everyone crossing the border with illegal entry and the decision to change asylum seekers in criminal court rather than waiting to see if they qualify for asylum are both decisions the Trump administration has made." Other administration officials back up Trump by pointing to the laws that give extra protection to families, unaccompanied children, and asylum seekers. The administration has been asking Congress to change these laws since it came into office and has blamed them for stopping Trump from securing the border the way he liked. Those aren't Democratic laws either. The laws addressing unaccompanied children were passed overwhelmingly in 2008 and signed by George W. Bush, while the restriction on detaining families is a result of a federal litigation. In that context, the law isn't forcing Trump to separate families. It's keeping Trump from doing what he perhaps really liked to do, which is simply send families back or keeping them in detention together, and so he has to resort to Plan B, which is just lying. Because that's all he's got. Because Donald Trump is, and forever will be, a pathological liar. You trigger a lot of right-wingers with that, but it's fucking true. No one can dispute this bullshit and then not claim that he's lying. Right-wingers claim he's lying half the time. Like, what the hell is wrong with this world right now? Like, he's fucking lying. Like it's just a lie. Now, I'm not up here saying MSNBC's doing 100% truth all the time on this issue 100%. No, I have no idea. I don't watch MSNBC because they're not an accurate representation of my views. I watch Fox News because they're an accurate representation of the opposite views of me in America. So, there's that. But it's just simply not true. It's just simply not true. Obama separated families. Yes, he did. That being said, it was at a particular time when there was a resurgence in illegal immigrants, and most of them got back together within a few hours. It's been reported that most of these people haven't been brought back together. So, I mean, what else do they need? They're just incapable of listening and picking up facts. It doesn't matter if it's not from Donald Trump or Fox News. It doesn't matter, and it's incredibly frustrating. It's incredibly frustrating that this is allowed to happen. That an entertainment organization like Fox is allowed to produce a biased, inaccurate, uninformed, lying media machine called Fox News and be presented as factual. That's incredibly just ridiculous. Are there right-wing points that should be addressed and could be very correct? Yes. Is Fox News that? No, because they're a bunch of lying assholes. All of them. All of them. Even the good ones. They all suck. Like, where's Chris Wallace? Where's Shep Smith gonna say today? What's Shep Smith, Chris Wallace, and there's another one, but who gives a shit? None of them are good. Fox News is a piece of shit organization, and they shouldn't be trusted as news because they're fucking not. They're a bunch of ideological, partisan hacks who don't give a shit about anything unless an R is next to their name, and that's about it. So, it doesn't fucking matter what you say. This is useless. What I'm doing is useless because it doesn't matter. I'm providing these formal documents signed by countries in 1951. I'm providing these investigative journalists reporting what they have found. It doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter. Because the average viewer of Fox News is like 78, and they're not willing to change their mind. It's 2018, but they're still living in 1963, so it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter what we say. It doesn't matter. They're going to defend this because their guy's doing it. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So again, I'm gonna restate that Operation Streamline, 2005 program under the administration of George W. Bush, according to Obama spokesperson Eric Schultz. The key difference, he said, is that while the 2005 program referred all illegal immigrants for prosecution, it made exceptions for adults traveling with children, and they never separated them. Jed Johnson, Obama's Homeland Security Secretary from 2013 to the end of his presidency, said separations occurred in rare cases but never as a matter of policy. I can't say it never happened. There may have been some exit situation, some emergency, Johnson told NPR on June 9th. There may have been some doubt about whether the adult accompanying the child was in fact the parent of the child. I can't say it never happened, but not as a matter of policy or practice. It's not something I could ask our Border Patrol or our immigration enforcement personnel to do. Obama top domestic policy advisor Cecilia Minoz said the Obama administration briefly weighed the separation of parents from children before deciding against it. I do remember looking at each other like, we're not going to do this, are we? We spent 5 minutes thinking it through and concluded that it was a bad idea, she told New York Times. The morality of it was clear. This is not who we are. Andrew Salih, president of the Migration Policy Institute, said that as a deterrent, the Obama administration began prosecuting border crossers who had already been deported at least once. But very few of those people crossed with children, so it didn't become as visible an issue, he said. There were some children separation and some pushback by migrant advocacy groups around that, but the numbers were quite limited. The idea of prosecuting people who come across the border illegally the first time they are caught is entirely new. So we haven't seen children separated from their parents or on anything near this scale before, because Sessions changed it from I believe a civil discourse, I think is what it's called, a civil discourse charge to a felony. So you change it to a felony, people's children are going to be separated because it's a different form of law. So yes, but these policies came from, at the very least, Jeff Sessions as Attorney General pushing these onto the Border Patrol and ICE agents. That's it. I mean, I don't know what else to say. This wasn't an Obama and Bush did it, yes, but again, it was a rare circumstance, and most of them got back with their families after a few hours. So this whole notion that this was specifically an Obama thing was it's just a lie. Like, I can't pull any more articles to show what people who know more than us are saying. I mean, you may not like Obama, you may not like his policies, you may not like his whole administration. That's fine. But when these people who worked for the administration, who did the job, who came out here and said, listen, we did this, but not at this scale, and most of this, and blah, 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 and most of, we did this, but not at the scale, not to the magnitude, and most of these people got reunited anyways, and it doesn't last for as long as it did, right? I would still imagine it would be incorrect to separate these kids when Obama does it as well, right? Like, that's a rare thing to admit. Like, the whataboutism from Fox News and right-wingers on this issue. Like, what about Obama and Hillary, who did this and said this and ate this and breathed this and looked at this? I mean, like, come on. No, it's equally as wrong for them to do it as it is for Donald Trump to do it. The difference is that I can say that and you can't. You can only point out how wrong it is for Obama to do this, but Trump doing this, well, I mean, he's the president, I mean, he's Donald Trump, I mean, it's the Republicans, I mean, the sun was in my eye, and I had to tie my shoe, and, like, Mueller kind of distracted me a little bit with his presence and aura, and, like, I tripped, and like, it's just, like, I mean, just the excuses are so frustrating. Like, everything under the sun except for, listen, I'm wrong. Both are wrong. Both are equally wrong. It's just abhorrent that Obama would do this. It's disgusting that Donald Trump would do this. Both are wrong. No, I don't get that from any interaction on Twitter from right-wingers. I get, Obama did this. Okay, and I respond with, it's equally as bad. And they go, what? because they don't respond. They don't know how to respond. Yeah. They don't know how to respond. None of them know how to respond to that. So, let's go ahead and get into some of the arguments that these fucking idiots are making. Okay? These are concentration camps. I mean, one of the most Orwellian things to come out of Fox News was Ducey on Fox and Friends saying, some people are calling that fences. No, it's not. It's just a bunch of steel tangled together. Or some shit like that. Yeah. On Fox and Friends. That's one of the most Orwellian things I think I've ever heard. It's not a fence, okay? A bunch of these triggered liberals, triggered libtards. It's not a fence. It's chains bent together in repeated fashion to make a wall. But it's not a fence. This is what it comes down to. You're for this is how I can't. You're for separation of families and prosecuting children, or you're not. That's what this argument comes down to. And 25, 30, 50 years from now, I will be happily, when I'm 70, in my retirement home, sitting there watching Fox News, because that's what they'll have on. And I'm sitting there, and they revisit this. I will be happy to say that I was on the right side of history when it comes to this. Because history always repeats. And right now, it's a fucking flashback. That's what it is. So, you're either for child separation and putting children into behind fences and in prison and in camps and tents, or you're not. And when you make excuses of Obama did this, Bush did this, Obama said this, Hillary said this, the sun was in my eye, Mueller's a bad dude, there are a bunch of the teams of the Mueller investigation's a bunch of Democrats, Comey, the Russians, Steele, the 2 FBI lovebirds, blah, blah, blah. I tripped. My shoe was untied. I forgot my purse. I don't know where my debit card is. I lost my phone. Any excuse that you give, you are defending that, whether you want to admit it or not. Because it's simple. You're for it or you're against it. I mean, I have no problem with a competent administration using this policy once they figured out that the kid and the person holding the kid is not the same. They're not the same. It's not his actual kid. I have no problem with a competent administration then using force or whatever to get that kid away from that parent, not even because it's not their parent. I have no problem with that. The problem is that we have an incompetent administration doing it before investigating. This is just their standard MO. This is just what they're doing. It doesn't matter if you're seeking asylum, which again is another legal form of coming into the country because you can be seeking asylum. Doesn't matter if you just walk up. Doesn't matter if you're just, going through the system. That's the standard MO. You brought a kid, separated. And, of course, I saw a great YouTuber I watch, Kyle Clancy, Secular Talk, make the great point. This is very expensive to do this. This is very expensive. So, the conservatives, who again, conservatives, family values Reagan. Gay marriage can't be a thing because family values and traditional marriage, but separating families is okay. Your belief system works well if you can give it to somebody else and not be against it. Free speech. Milo Yiannopoulos, Ben Shapiro, college campuses. Should they be allowed to speak? Yes, because I believe in free speech. Should families be separated? No, not at the border. Especially when they're seeking asylum. It would be cheaper right? And then conservatives, small government. We can't have universal health care, even though every other country has it. They get better results. They pay less money. We pay roughly the same amount in taxes as our fellow Europeans, but we get nothing in return, whether it be infrastructure, education, healthcare, etc. We get none of that. They pay less. Healthcare is more as a percentage of our GDP. We pay more and get worse results. The list goes on and on and on. No other country is going to a more right-wing version of healthcare, but yet, you know, we can't do this because the government would be too big. Oh, but we can have a big enough government to separate families and have it cost a fuck ton of money. When it would just be cheaper to just send them back, to just deport them. Now, I haven't heard many people on the left who, if someone walks up to the border, they get all up in arms about them getting turned back. It's the people who have been here for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Whether it be the Dreamers or just people in general. Multiple stories came out that counties that voted for Trump by 15, 20, 30 points, their good neighbor was deported, and they realized, but I thought they were going to just go after the bad ones. I didn't want this. I didn't want this to happen. That's when myself and other left-wingers have a problem with this, is when people who come over here, and that's their only offense, and maybe they started a family, and maybe they lived the American dream, and maybe they started a business and hired people, or maybe they just didn't do anything with their lives. They just went to work, paid, you know, sales tax, and paid property tax if they owned property, you know, sent their kids to school, sent their kids to college without any form of help from the federal government or scholarships because they're illegal. So they paid for it out of their own pocket, and they paid sales tax. I mean, and they lived here for 25 years. That's where I have that's where I have a problem with it. But if someone comes up and they get deported and they don't step foot here on the border, I don't see any actual leftists or liberals or Democrats or progressives or Bernie people or even Hillary people getting upset about that. They have no problem with that. Now, that might be hard for you to believe coming from a Bernie guy, a progressive, a leftist, saying that because your Fox News bubble doesn't expand to those people. Sure as hell doesn't expand to the center-left people either, but that's fine. So yeah, no actual Democrats are upset. Okay? Now, I'm also against the farther left people of open borders. That's also incorrect. But we're in this very small center where, listen, the people, yeah, Jose Rodriguez, who's been here for 25 years, yeah, he's not a threat to me. I don't care about him. I would grant him amnesty if I could do that. I have no qualms with you. It doesn't matter to me. I don't hold this false sense of patriotism with me of you have to have a piece of paper. And I happen to agree with Jose Marti, a good I believe Cuban writer in the early 1900s who said we're all Americans. The continents themselves are North America and South America. They are Americans. Their countries and their governments as of today may not believe that, and you know, that's fine. But when it comes down to it, we're all Americans. We all are on the American hemisphere. We're North Americans. We're Central Americans. We're South Americans. But we're all Americans, and American ideals aren't that special. Most of the people around the world hold the same ideals. So it's not like America is some special place that everyone has these ideals. Sure, we probably grant more freedom to some of these other countries, but there's also downsides to that. The number one reason for bankruptcy in America is health bills. You don't have that anywhere else. We're not as happy as other countries. We have the most incarcerated people. We're like shitty when it comes to public school, science and math. I mean, we're number one on military spending. I mean, there are downsides to that as well. Yes, we grant freedom, but with those good freedoms of speech and press and religion and peacefully assembly and to pledge your grievances to the government, comes bad freedoms, like the freedom to go bankrupt because you can't pay for health care. the freedom to go into debt because you want to get an education and better your life. I mean, those freedoms are there too. And those are freedoms that are very important to solve. We're not perfect. We've never been perfect. We will never be perfect. And that doesn't make me any less patriotic than anybody else. And if you say that, you're what's wrong. So the small government conservatives who want to spend more money for separating these families are just can't connect the dots between small government and actual small government and spending money for this. So they're dumb. Then the people, the conservatives who do whataboutism and blame everybody else are just dumb, right? And then the same logic that applied to Colin Kaepernick on this situation on how dare Colin Kaepernick kneel for the flag and the anthem. That upsets me and my false sense of patriotism, and how dare the troops stand for the troops at least. How dare he? And then a video comes out showing a veteran told him to kneel. So it undermines their entire argument. But again, they're not smart enough to connect the two. A veteran told him to kneel, but he's against the troops. That's weird. That's weird. Okay? They're like, no. See, it's horribly... a lot of these people on Fox News are saying it's horrible that people are calling these concentration camps because it's insulting to other Holocaust survivors. How dare the left? How dare they do this? It's so inconsiderate to actual Holocaust survivors. How dare they do this? It diminishes the trauma the Jewish people went through when they went into concentration camps. I am outraged at what the Democrats are. What's this? Quote, Nazis separated me from my parents as a child. The trauma lasts a lifetime. A Holocaust survivor saying that what Trump is doing is reminiscent of when he was in the concentration camps? That's really fucking interesting. So your entire argument, again, is undermined by the people you saying it offends. It offends the troops. Oh, a veteran told him to kneel? Interesting. It offends the Jewish survivors of the Holocaust. Oh, a Holocaust survivor says that what Trump's doing is reminding him of when he was in the concentration camps? Interesting. Very interesting. So, let's go ahead and read just like the very first little bit of this, because it's so sad. The events occurring now on our border with Mexico, where children are being removed from their arms of their mothers and fathers and sent to foster families or shelters, makes me weep with ganache. Ganache? No, that's like for cupcakes and shit. I'm assuming Nash. Makes me weep and gnash my teeth with sadness and rage. I know what they're going through. When we were children, my two siblings and I were also taken from our parents. And the problems we've experienced since then portend the terrible things that many of these children are bound to suffer. My family was Jewish, living in 1942 in the Netherlands when the country was occupied by the Nazis. We children were sent into hiding with foster families who risked arrest and death by taking us in. They protected us, they loved us, and we were extremely lucky to have survived the war and been well cared for. Yet the lasting damage inflicted by the separation reverberates to this day, decades hence. Quote, have you heard the screams and seen the panic of a 3-year-old when it has lost sight of its mother in a supermarket? That scream subsides when the mother reappears around the end of the aisle. This is my brother writing in recent years. He tries to deal with the lasting pain through memoir. It's been 76 years, yet he revisits the separation obsessively. He still writes about it in present time. In the first home, I screamed for 6 weeks. Then I moved to another family and I stopped screaming. I give up. Nothing around me is known to me. All those around me are strangers. I have no past. I have no future. I have no identity. I am nowhere. I am frozen in fear. It is the only emotion I possess now. As a 3-year-old child, I believe that I must have made some terrible mistake to have caused my known world to disappear. I spend the rest of my life trying to desperately not to make another mistake. That is chilling. He blames himself. These kids are going to blame themselves. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. This is disgusting. It's been misreported and falsely and falsely accused, and lies coming out of both sides, but more so the right, because there are guys doing it, let's be honest. And reading what this Holocaust survivor saying that this reminds me of that, and this is what I went through. I blamed myself. That's horrible. And the greatest country on earth is somehow stumbling and tripping and fucking up because we have an incompetent man as the leader of the free world. Good thing that there are checks and balances, right? Congress will be able to do something. Let's go ahead and break your heart there too. So Ted Cruz comes out. Ted Cruz says he's going to introduce emergency legislation to stop family separation. Senator Ted Cruz, the Republican from Texas, announced Monday evening that he was introducing emergency legislation to immediately end the practice of family separation and speed up the review of asylum cases in an attempt to stem the tide of fury aimed at Republicans in the Trump administration. Quote, all Americans are rightly horrified by the images we see on the news. Children in tears pulled away from their mothers and fathers. This must stop, Cruz said in a statement. Good, right? We've got a Republican on our side. But it's not that easy. Democrats have united behind the Keep Families Together Act. Meanwhile, Democrats have united behind their own bill to end family separation. On Monday, West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin became the 49th Republican to support California Senator Dianne Feinstein's bill to end the practice of separating children from their parents unless they are being abused or trafficked, or a court decides it's in the child's best interest. Wow, fairly reasonable. In a statement on the legislation, Manchin said, as a father, grandfather, and Christian, I am wholeheartedly opposed to any policy that allows innocent children to be separated from their parents as they enter our country. So, Democrats have had this for a while now, and yet it's still being reported that the Democrats need to do something about this, and Fox News goes on this rampage about how Democrats are at fault here. They're the problems. They can't find any legislation for this. How dare they? If they want it so bad, they should do legislation to fix this. Donald Trump says the Democrats need to do their fault. They need to pass. And then they do, and Republicans can't even co-sponsor it or co-sign on to it.